With a friend like Mr. Chi, Bai Wu decides it's time to go help Wang. He will share his 10 million from the sale of the 2 swords with him, so he can't refuse him. When he arrives, Bai Wu realizes that some guys are kidnapping Wang, but it's not time to just sit around, he must chase after them. Bai Wu goes after them. Until the kidnappers arrive at this place, Bai Wu wonders about the possibility of the kidnappers asking for ransom. But it is very low, so he will call the police, but to his bad luck, there is no signal. 95% of the signal is blocked. Bai Wu wonders about the probability of rescuing Wang. It is 37%. For him, that is enough. The system is making a lot of progress. Now it gives more specific details. It tells Bai Wu that after about 6 seconds, the guard will go to the door and turn around for 4 seconds. That's the chance he will have not to be discovered. After passing the guard, he uses his powers to locate Wang. The system tells him to turn right in 30 meters. The guard will leave after 8 seconds and Bai Wu will have 13 seconds to pass. These guys talk a little bit about why they kidnapped Wang. It's because he had the 7-star knife and dared to investigate those people, so they will teach him a lesson. Wang is tied up after being beaten up. Moments later, Bai Wu arrives at Wang's place and asks him not to make any noise while he releases him. Wang asks Bai Wu how he knew he would be there. Bai Wu beats him and tells him that he is there to save him, then asks him if he knows the identity of the person who sent the kidnappers, but Wang doesn't. Bai Wu knows that situation is very complicated, so they should leave immediately, but Wang refuses to escape and wants to accept his fate. He tells Bai Wu that he shouldn't worry, just call the police is enough. Wang expresses his gratitude to Bai Wu for the last time, the time he helped him with the 7-star knife. Bai Wu refuses to abandon him as sneaking and was too complicated. Bai Wu reminds him of the time he said he would take him as his little brother, then shows him a check for 60 million which makes Wang's spirits completely recover. Bai Wu tells him that there is no time to talk. They must get out of there and then he will give him $10 million. Wang's eyes sparkle when he hears this. The kidnappers go to see Wang with the intention of killing him. Even though they both have fears, Bai Wu is determined to save him. By the time the kidnappers enter, Wang is gone. They think he escaped through the window, so they go in that direction. But Wang and Bai Wu are hiding, and if it hadn't been for the idea of pretending to have escaped, they wouldn't have counted it. Wang and Bai Wu continue to move slowly through the rubble so as not to be discovered. Bai Wu asks the system which path is better to take. The one to the right is more likely to succeed. Wang thinks Bai Wu has been there before. He tries to explain that he hasn't. That's his special talent. Wang wants Bai Wu to teach him his powers, as he has always been a fan of fortune telling since he was a child. Bai Wu tells him that as long as they can get out of there alive, he will accept him as his apprentice. To the misfortune of both of them, this guy was watching them on camera, and this guy already knew him, remember him. This is the guy that Bai Wu ruined the business with the 7-star knife and the vase. Since Bai Wu killed that business, and because Wang investigated him and Lao Ji for the 7-star knife, he comes to the conclusion that Bai Wu might know something about it. This guy cares more about Qi than Bai Wu, which is why this guy offers to kidnap him. But the guy with the scar doesn't like the idea at all. This guy thinks Qi used Bai Wu to pretend to be an idiot and ruin his business. For now, they will take care of Bai Wu and Wang. He will then discuss the matter of Qi with his elder brother. Back with these two, Bai Wu examines the most feasible escape routes. Route A, the farthest route, has a success rate of 48%, while Route B has a success rate of 39%. The reasonable thing to do would be to choose the route with the highest probability. Bai Wu knows this well, but they are tired of so much running. Plus the probability is always changing, which means that with the actions they take, the movements of the kidnappers constantly shifts the outcome. They choose the short path. Bai Wu explains to Wang that there is a door at the end of the corridor they are about to leave, but they must be careful. As they get closer, the success rate gets higher and higher. It doesn't seem to make much sense that everything is so quiet. When it seemed that they had managed to escape and that the kidnappers had given up, the kidnappers are behind the door and the success rate begins to drop dramatically. Wang tries to block the door to keep them out, but it is not enough because more of them arrive by car and surround them. All indications were that the system had failed this time. Surrounded and out of options, Wang proposes a fight. Next, the fight begins and the blows rain down from one side to the other, impressive as it may seem. Bai Wu and Wang were defeating each of the thugs, until the leader gets out of the car. Bai Wu attacks him, but he dodges easily and hits him back in the face. Wang goes down too. Wang is tired of fighting, so he gives up. Wang didn't know what this guy meant by ruin his plans, but this is no time to think about that. First he has to figure out how to get out of there. The chance of escape is 33%. The probability is a bit low, but there is still a chance. Wang notices that Bai Wu is thinking of a way to escape, so he will try to buy some time. So he gets up to fight again, or well, hold his own. Bai Wu knows that Wang won't be able to hold on for long. Next, he realizes that Wang is the key to escape, 100%. Bai Wu thinks he has a killer move or something, so he tells Wang to do it now. But what power? Is it Pooh from Kung Fu Panda or what? Wang uses his killer move, hugging the guy's leg and begging for his life. But that wasn't all, because after throwing him off, he manages to knock him down, but to little avail, because the guy gets even angrier. Bai Wu had not taken into account that when people get very angry or lose control of their emotions, strength increases for a short time. But if so, can Wang's power also increase temporarily? Well, 78%. The guy lights a cigarette and tells his men to kill them both. Moments later, Bai Wu tells Wang that there's something he's been hiding. Bai Wu says those duo swords were real. The probability of escape was almost 7%. Bai Wu continues, he says he sold the duo sword for 60 million. The money he showed him was from that sword. Hearing this, Wang stands up. The probability of escape was still increasing. Bai Wu doesn't stop there. He tells him that when he received the money from the old man, he told him that most of the fake antiques were made by Wang. After this, the old man said he would kick him out of the antique street and make Wang disappear forever. As Wang got angrier, the likelihood of escape increased. Bai Wu also adds that these people in here are a group. Wang gets so angry that he wants to kill Bai Wu, then starts hitting everyone around. And as he hits them, the likelihood of escape keeps increasing. After knocking down the one in the military uniform, Wang lashes out at Bai Wu, breaking the door behind them and finally making his way out. After this, Wang faints. Fortunately for Bai Wu, he was smart and put on an iron plate, otherwise Wang would have killed him. Bai Wu struggles to get Wang to the car. They manage to escape alive, but it's not over yet. They must find out the origin of these people. But well, anyway, from now on, Bai Wu will consider Wang as his little brother. As for the guy from before, he is sure that he will meet Bai Wu again. In the hospital, Bai Wu reveals to Wang that everything he said was part of the plan to escape. Bai Wu admits that everything except the dual sword was a lie. Bai Wu tells him not to worry. He won't break the promise. He will give him 50% of the money for the sword, and adds that if he betrays him in the future, he is free to let him die. Bai Wu tells him that he will never lie to him again, but I don't think so. Wang reminds him of the promise from before. Bai Wu must make him his apprentice and teach him to read fortunes. But he makes it clear that it won't be easy. Wang is sure that from now on, the antique circle will be theirs and that they have nothing to worry about, except that he has to heal first. Bai Wu asks Wang again if he knows the people who kidnapped him. He says no, but he forgot to tell Bai Wu that he investigated the forgery of the 7-star knife. It might be related, because the 9-dragon jar also had a QR code, so definitely that group of people were responsible. And yes, 100% probability. Bai Wu knows that due to the level of fraud they are running and the revenge they tried, it must be a group with a long history. Considering that Bai Wu had 2 problems in a row with this group, he must be the target, so they are watching him. The odds of this are 100%. While the odds that Wang's kidnapping was his fault are 60%, so it is partly his fault. With Bai Wu's current strength, it's difficult to take on that group, so there's nothing he can do at that point. Wang apologizes to him for getting him into trouble, but what Wang doesn't know is that it was Bai Wu who ended up getting him involved. Bai Wu asks Wang to let him handle the situation. He must be careful from now on and not be reckless. Next, Chi calls Bai Wu. He is already aware of the matter as Chi asked directly. Bai Wu wonders if this is something to do with the antique circle. As Chi has been out of town, he warns them both to be careful, as that gang won't let them go easily. Bai Wu asks for details about the group. Chi only knows that the background of this group is not small. Listening to what Chi said, Bai Wu already knows that this group is dangerous. Wang overheard the conversation with Chi, so he assumes that by having the old man on his side, they won't have to worry about the gang. Bai Wu thinks Chi must have something to do with the gang. Things are getting more complicated than he thought. Bai Wu just wants to be happy. If he had known all this would happen, he would never have broken the 9 dragons vase. The guy from the gang calls someone and tells him that Chi has a deep foundation. That coupled with the recent investigations into the group, that's something they want to avoid, so they plan to kill both of them to solve it. The person he was talking to was this guy, and he's excited about the show that had just started with Chi and Bai Wu. A few days later, Wang finally gets out of the hospital. Now they must go undercover. Well, Bai Wu doesn't, as he believes an assassin isn't stupid enough to attack in broad daylight. Wang tells Bai Wu that they should hide for a few days and wait until Qi returns to talk things over. Wang knows a safe place, but Bai Wu tells him that it is not necessary, as waiting for death is not a solution. They should take the initiative. Wang thinks Bai Wu is crazy for wanting to confront the gang. He reminds Bai Wu that those people are too cruel, and they almost lost their lives trying to escape, so it is risky to confront them. Bai Wu asks Wang if he really wants to keep hiding. Since they are both in the light and the gang in the dark, the first thing they must do is to gather information. It is the only way to take the initiative. Hadn't Wang said they would dominate the antique circle? If they manage to get rid of that gang, the hegemony will be half done. Wang comes to his senses. He is now determined to finish them off. Bai Wu asks Wang if there is any way to find out about the news. He replies that there is a guy in the northern city they can ask, as he is very knowledgeable and gossipy, and as long as he is well paid, there is nothing he can't find out. Bai Wu wonders if this person will help him investigate the group of counterfeiters. The answer is 100% yes. The system doesn't know how to answer Bai Wu if that person they are talking about is so amazing, because the connection of words is too complicated to answer. Moreover, the probability of getting information from that guy is 0%. Going to see that guy is useful, but asking about it is not. Bai Wu understands they won't be able to get information if they ask that guy in person, or maybe there is some other expert who can help them. The probability of higher assistance is 100%. Talking to the system gives Bai Wu a headache. That said, they both set off for the night market. This market is interesting. Wang explains that the night market opens at night and closes at dawn. Yes, the name itself says so. Wang offers to guide Bai Wu. What they didn't know is that they were being watched. This guy smiles because it only cost him 100,000 to spread some rumors to slander Bai Wu and Wang. Yeah, 100,000. Pretty low. The guy starts to move and prepares his gun. He goes behind Bai Wu and Wang. Wang was trying to talk to the people in the market, but they were acting cold and indifferent. Bai Wu laughs because he thinks Wang has a bad reputation there. Wang then takes Bai Wu to this guy's stall, who refuses to even sell them anything. Soon after, Bai Wu realizes that something is not right. If they look around, everyone seems to be watching them. Bai Wu had intended to get information there, but the people are quite hostile to both of them. They are definitely in trouble. Bai Wu takes Wang to get out of there. He doesn't know why people are treating him that way, as he has been in that street for years. 10 minutes later, they both hid their identities. Well, at least they tried. Wang was sad as he has been a kind and polite person to the people there. The fact that they become his enemies overnight is a bit of an unpleasant idea. As they go undercover through the stalls before, they manage to overhear these guys saying the following. Wang is Qi's subordinate. That Qi is fond of the 9 dragons vase, but it is impossible to buy it at a low price. So he told Wang to break the vase and slander the seller, saying it is fake. Besides, he has a partner named Bai Wu. This guy says that bad people don't live long. So if you do bad things, you will pay for it sooner or later. This other guy asks if there is evidence for everything that is being said. The truth is there isn't. They assume it's true because they are all saying the same thing. Wang had to resist the urge to intervene in the conversation. It is obvious that someone is spreading rumors about them. Bai Wu assumes that the gang is responsible. The system confirms it. Bai Wu tells Wang that the rumor is not directed at them, but at Qi, as he is well respected in the antique circle and is not afraid of rumors and slander, so the rumor affected them. Fortunately, Bai Wu realized it in time. According to Bai Wu's calculations, they will have a nobleman who will want to help them in that night market, although he has no idea who it is yet, so the main task right now is to find that noble person first. Bai Wu turns around and notices that Wang is not there. He was negotiating with this guy. The item Wang wants is an original product. Moreover, it is not expensive, so Bai Wu will let him buy it. Wang offers the guy 5,000 and he ends up accepting. Then this guy shows up to tell the seller that those two are not trustworthy, so the item can't be sold to them. They are in trouble. Who is this guy? Wang recognizes him. He is Wu Hongtai. Bai Wu knows that the main task is to find the nobleman quickly, so they have no time to waste. Wang asks Hongtai why the object cannot be sold. He replies that the organ case is not from the Qing dynasty, but from the Ming dynasty, so the real value should be about 300,000. Wang tells Bai Wu that Hongtai is the house master of the Wu antique family, and they have a problem with each other. Perhaps Hongtai recognized Wang, and that is why he deliberately intervened to cause trouble. Hongtai tells Wang not to go out in the street like that because it is embarrassing. Bai Wu immediately recognizes that it is a provocation. Wang mentions that Hong Tai's martial arts are amazing, but that doesn't mean he should think about being the head of the antique circle and making the rules. Wang mentions that he heard that all martial arts practitioners are from Zuo Lengchen or Yu Buquan. Because of the murderous look, Bai Wu uses his powers to find out if Hong Tai is from the places Wang mentioned. But the odds are nil. The people around were already realizing that Wang was bad-mouthing the martial arts master. Then they start to recognize him a little. If things go on like this, their identities will be revealed and the plan to find this person will vanish. Bai Wu decides not to buy anything and leave. But Hong Tai stops them. He tells Bai Wu that if he doesn't agree with him, it's because he has bad eyesight and deceives the world. This guy is definitely looking for trouble. He's trying to get people's attention. Bai Wu uses the system to find out if that organ box is Qing or Ming dynasty. It is 100% Qing dynasty. Bai Wu tells him that the object belongs to the Qing dynasty and stresses that Hong Tai earlier mentioned that it belonged to the Ming. So Hong Tai now decides to have a competition against Bai Wu to see who is right. Through verification, the one who is wrong is judged and must buy that box and give it to someone else. Wang tells Hong Tai that if he loses, he will lose the face of the Wu family and should not look for trouble again. Hong Tai begins to decipher the box. Bai Wu is surprised and thinks it's all he had prepared. Hong Tai explains that the box has two parts, the inside and the outside. The outside was made by a craftsman of the Qing dynasty, and the inside was made by a craftsman of the Ming dynasty, and stresses again that the market price is 300 million. It seemed that Bai Wu had lost. It is a big problem, if the system is correct. The outer box is indeed from the Qing dynasty, but he did not know that inside there was another box. Hong Tai tried his best to attack both of them. What is the real purpose of this guy? Based on the intelligence of the system, he can't know the details of that person, so he has no choice. Bai Wu recognizes that Hong Tai has excellent skill and therefore, he is willing to surrender. Wang follows him. Hong Tai mentions that there is one more thing he would like to apologize for, the bad words about the Wu family. Bai Wu acknowledges that even though Hong Tai is proud and rigid, he doesn't seem like a bad person. Besides, the Wu family is the big family in that circle. That's where he realizes that it's very likely that the Wu family is what he's been looking for. The people discover that the fat man is Wang, so they start running them both out of the place. Bai Wu wonders if that is the person he is looking for. There is a 50-50 chance. Bai Wu understands. Even if it is not the person, it must be someone close to that person. Hong Tai thinks that Bai Wu is not skilled at all, so he wonders why his master has paid so much attention to him. Near them was this guy who had been contacted by Qi to protect Bai Wu, so they clearly got rid of the idiot from before who was planning to stab him. Bai Wu knows what to do. He tells Hong Tai that he has good eyesight and good technique, for which he admires him, but clarifies that the box costs more than 300,000. Bai Wu recognizes that the Wu family has a deep heritage and Hong Tai is an expert, so he asks him if there is any other mystery hidden in the box. Hong Tai replies that the Wu family has a mechanism box of the same type that has been handed down for many years, so even if there is no mystery in this box, he does not dare to say if there is anything else. Bai Wu asks Hong Tai to open the box and check what's inside. He starts to open it. After doing so, it was apparently empty. Then Bai Wu picks it up and starts to move it like a Rubik's Cube. Moments later, Bai Wu seems to have got something. It was this: one layer is a lotus pattern and the other layer is a circular labyrinth. Even Hong Tai, martial master, is surprised. That box is encrypted with a Chinese and Western combination. After opening that little box, he finds something inside. Fortunately, Bai Wu asks the system in detail, then turns to Hong Tai and tells him that he is not talented. He was just lucky enough to find the secret of that box. Hong Tai acknowledges Bai Wu's extraordinary abilities. Bai Wu wonders if the person the system told him he would find in the night market was Hong Tai. But he just pushed him to test his skills. The expert must be in the crowd. Now that Hong Tai lost, he accepts defeat and will buy the box at market price and give it to Bai Wu. In the crowd, a guy shouts that Bai Wu is good and the old man will meet him. He had finally appeared. The guy shows up. Hong Tai greets him as his master. This guy is Mr. Wu. He thinks that Bai Wu knew him before, but in that antique circle everyone knows Mr. Wu's reputation. Wang shrugs his shoulders and has to deny all the bad things he said moments before about Mr. Wu. Since Bai Wu beat Hong Tai, Mr. Wu must be next. Bai Wu wonders if Mr. Wu is the noble man. He is 100% sure that old man is no mere man. If you want to be friends with him, you must agree to compete against him. The title of the contest is about to be decided. Mr. Wu shows a couple of notes. For 1 hour, both he and Bai Wu will take $100 to buy treasures in the night market. At the end, the one who buys the most valuable one will win. Bai Wu accepts and both of them set off. The people around considered this match as a fight between two gods. Some betting that Bai Wu would win, others betting on Mr. Wu. Wang recommends him some items like the green dragon sword or Tang Bohu's portrait. But it was pure rubbish. Bai Wu asks him to keep still, as he knows all those items are fake. Bai Wu asks Wang not to forget that he is able to guess and calculate. It's time for Bai Wu's beloved system to go to work. Bai Wu finds a blue and white admiration vase imitating the Yongzheng Qing dynasty in the early Republic of China, although it is a high-quality imitation. The craftsman's skill is good, so it must be worth tens of thousands. Mr. Wu is surprised to see that Bai Wu got such an object. He instead got a set of old comic books published after the founding of the People's Republic of China. Wang says that the complete set of those books cost thousands of dollars, so he is sure that Bai Wu already won. But Mr. Wu's move is to say that such an object is a priceless treasure. He thinks it is silly to buy that vase worth a few $100s with the priceless treasure. Bai Wu realizes that Mr. Wu cannot afford to lose. Mr. Wu starts bragging about his experience in the antique market. Obviously, he is lying, but he uses his position to convince the others that he is the winner. Bai Wu holds his hands to his face. He has done a lot of calculations, but he didn't expect old Wu to come out like this. Mr. Wu says that in today's game they have a draw, but tomorrow he invites Bai Wu to his house, as he has what he wants. For Bai Wu, it is better to be respectful than obedient. Mr. Wu and Hong Tai say goodbye. Bai Wu thinks Mr. Wu is quite interesting. Before leaving, Mr. Wu tells Bai Wu that he shouldn't worry about that guy, as he has sent him away. He is referring to the guy who wanted to harm them before. It's just as Mr. Wu expected from Qi. The old man has a very good eye for people. Bai Wu wonders if the meeting that awaited him was a surprise or a scare. He is looking forward to it. They try to phone, but the number has been switched off. The system confirms to Bai Wu that Baiqiu is a bad guy. And not only that, Mr. Wu also took care of him. Why did Mr. Wu go around so much? Can't he help Bai Wu directly? No use guessing. He will have to go tomorrow to see what Mr. Wu Lao wants. Wang wants to go to Mr. Wu's house too, but Bai Wu makes it clear that he wasn't invited. Bai Wu tells Wang that Wu Lao is a friend and not an enemy. He asked Bai Wu to go. It must be something important. That's why he has to go. If that's the chaos, then Wang will give his life to accompany Bai Wu. The next day, they arrive at Mr. Wu's mansion. Wang is photographing it. Seeing how big the residence is, Bai Wu is clear that this is the kind of life he wants. Wang brags to his acquaintances that he is in the Wu mansion. Bai Wu tells him that he should not brag about anything, because in the future they will also become great men. Both shake hands. When the time comes, they will be able to buy whatever they want. Suddenly, the husky from before appears. Yes, Oreo, the crazy dog from last time. But he was not there alone. He came with his owner, Xiaoxiao, although she does not remember Bai Wu because she is a fool. Wang asks Bai Wu if he knows this girl. He says he met her a little earlier. Finally, the girl remembers Bai Wu, and she lives in this mansion. Mr. Wu is her grandfather, and as they came to see him, she will take them. Bai Wu thinks that even though this girl looks normal, she is quite clumsy. Finally, they enter the mansion. Wang thinks the girl is trying to show how big her family is, as she led them all the way from the front door to the back door. Bai Wu thinks about what Xiaoxiao could be planning. Has she intentionally led them into a trap? Moments later, Hong Tai appears. Xiaoxiao tells him that they are looking for Mr. Wu, but he reminds her not to let just anyone in, especially strangers. Yes, he pretends he doesn't know them. Next, Hong Tai asks Bai Wu and Wang to accompany him, as Mr. Wu is waiting for them on the terrace. Bai Wu was thinking wrong. That girl is pure, normal, and dumb. Mr. Wu was waiting for them. In that drive was all the information about the group chasing Bai Wu, but he makes it clear that if he wants that information, he must show him his true ability. Bai Wu asks him what he should do. Mr. Wu tells him that he heard a lot about him from old Qi, but he refuses to believe it. He can't believe he has such talent at such a young age. Mr. Wu tells him that to test Bai Wu's skills, Bai Wu will have to look at the treasures in his study room and say the values and origin. If he gets everything right, Mr. Wu will admit that Bai Wu has great ability and give him the USB. Bai Wu accepts the deal and Mr. Wu takes him to the study room, where the old man has collected treasures for years. Bai Wu starts to look around, but notices something. Wang notices that Bai Wu is taking it quite seriously, but the expression is somewhat strange. After seeing all the objects again, he confirms that it is a somewhat problematic situation. Wang offers to tell the values and origins of the objects as he supposedly knows most things in the room. Bai Wu asks him not to mess it up, as it is not as easy as it looks. Mr. Wu asks him why he doesn't talk. Wasn't he supposed to be able to calculate everything? Wang, seeing that Mr. Wu didn't look happy, thinks about how to prepare himself to find the nicest words to end the whole thing. Wang starts by trying to explain that Buddha head, which he says is from the Northern Wei dynasty, is a priceless treasure. Mr. Wu asks Bai Wu what he thinks about this Buddha head. That Buddha head is a fake. It should be something about 10 years old. The workmanship is excellent. The price is 30,000. Wang is surprised for bad, because even if it is a fake object, it is not something that should be said directly. Wang comes across the old thing from the spring and autumn period. He thinks it must be the best treasure. He is grateful to be able to see such objects. Bai Wu does not keep quiet. He says that this object is also an imitation. It is an almost perfect imitation, and the price is about 100,000. Wang was afraid of the reaction Bai Wu's words might cause in Mr. Wu, so he thinks of a way to fix the situation. Wang comes across this object, Mai Fu's running script, so he asks Bai Wu if the calligraphy and paintings are real. But the answer is no, they are also fake. Wang thinks Bai Wu is joking. Not that he doesn't believe in his abilities, but how is it possible that all the objects are fake? Wang asks Bai Wu not to make Mr. Wu angry. Bai Wu says that this calligraphy is a fake that was made a year ago using the technique of exposing paintings, combining the real and the fake, although it is a product that costs millions. Bai Wu goes through all the fakes he has found, all of high quality. There are a total of 73 antiques in that house, and all of them are fakes. Mr. Wu stands up and asks Bai Wu if him, as the patriarch of the 17th generation of the Wu family, only collects fake items. Wang tries to defend Bai Wu, who tells Mr. Wu again, all these items are fake. The situation between these two was getting more and more tense. Wang tries to patch it up by saying that Bai Wu had not slept well, so he was in a bad mood and his presentation is abnormal. Bai Wu wonders why all these things are faked. Today he feels like a sheep in a tiger's mouth. The system had told Bai Wu that he could pass the test smoothly and establish a friendship with Mr. Wu. But now he doesn't know how to handle the situation. Mr. Wu tells him that he will give him another chance. He asks him again if those antiques are real or not. Bai Wu's answer is the same. Mr. Wu tells him that he will have to take responsibility for what he says, for some reason, then starts to hurt Wang. Bai Wu asks him to stop, as this is all about him, not Wang. Moments later, he lets him go, but at what cost? Because Mr. Wu positions himself to fight and punches Bai Wu in the stomach. Mr. Wu seems to have no intention of letting them go. He is clearly a noble man. But why is he dealing with them like that? And more importantly, why is the room full of fake objects? Bai Wu wondered what he could do. As he slowly fell unconscious, Mr. Wu asked him for about the 4th time the same question. Bai Wu didn't change his position. They are fake objects and he won't change his mind. Then Mr. Wu started to laugh out loud. But that's not the only thing, because Qi is also there and relieves Bai Wu's pain by hitting exact acupuncture points. Mr. Wu tells Bai Wu that he approves of it. He also clarifies that he didn't even hit him that hard. He felt it because of the physical ailment he has. Everything is calmer now, but Wang can't stop crying because of his fear. Both Qi and Mr. Wu are old acquaintances. Qi had asked Mr. Wu to look after Bai Wu, but he didn't trust Qi's vision. That's why he wanted to test him. For the same reason he went to the night market, but admittedly the performance was good. So good that Wang almost scared himself to death. Mr. Wu likes Wang's words. That's why he will reward him with a big red envelope. 10 million for him and 50 million for Bai Wu, although Wang complains that he is getting less. She asks Bai Wu if he is not curious that they are in a house with fake antiques, then tells Mr. Wu to explain the situation. Mr. Wu mentions that all the antiques in that hall are fake, though of exquisite craftsmanship, which is enough to imitate the real thing. He keeps them in his collection to study them from time to time. On the other hand, it is also to temper the mind, and more importantly, many of them come from the same place, the Shenggong Hall, the gang that Bai Wu is looking for. Basically, knowing the methods employed by Shenggong, they will be able to confront them. This old man's studio is called Wuzhen Pavilion. It turns out that this is the source of the counterfeit goods in Mr. Wu's house. But what worries Bai Wu is that he used the system to calculate when he saw the fakes in the house. A room full of high-quality fakes. Could it be that the Wu family has something to do with the group of counterfeiters? No, maybe it's not Mr. Wu, but another member of the family. But when he was asking questions, the system stopped. Bai Wu must find a way to find this guy as soon as possible. Bai Wu thanks for the teachings. Chi has a suggestion. Both Chi and Mr. Wu formally represent the Antique Association, so they invite Bai Wu to join as a member as he has strength, personality, and is suitable to join. Bai Wu thinks this is a fantastic idea. This would mean that Bai Wu would be a real person belonging to the Antique Circle. But Wang tells him to calm down, as it is just the beginning. The Antique Association has thousands of members, and Wang is one of them. But Bai Wu is extraordinary. He cannot just be an ordinary member. They are offering him to be one of the core members. Mr. Wu is fascinated by the idea that in the future, they will deal with idiots who counterfeit and sell fakes together. Wang is very surprised to hear that they will make Bai Wu a core member. There is something special with this kind of members. The core management of the Antique Association is made up of 17 standing committee members. Although there is a chairman and vice chairman, decisions are made by the votes of these people who people usually call the core members. There are only big names in that circle. Wang approaches Mr. Wu to tell him that he is still an ordinary member, hinting that he wants to be a core member. But Wang is only considered as meeting staff. She tells Bai Wu that he has everything to become a core member, but that issue is covered by Mr. Wu. Wang mentions that the core members have always been absent and replaced. Who will they kick out to give Bai Wu a place? Mr. Wu mentions that the old son of Jingdexing in the west of the city was bought by a group of counterfeiters and did disgraceful things. That was enough to get him expelled. Chi came out this time to implement the resolution and kick him out of the seniority circle, although it was quite cheap just to be kicked out. Mr. Wu had other plans for him, but Chi clarifies that the society has rules. Bai Wu asks both of them what the origin of the group of forgers is. They will talk about it over tea. The Hangzhou Antique Association is over 100 years old. They have all fought against fakes. For a while, they were suppressed and dissipated, but the good times don't last long, because suddenly, a mysterious man appeared in the area. Involved with a group of scum, he started his business of manufacturing and selling counterfeits, and as time went by he reached the top. That group still has a lot of roots. The counterfeiting skills are more and more exquisite in recent years for some products out of the market. It is hard to see the defects, and it is true, because if not for Bai Wu, Chi would have bought the 9-dragon vase before. Now the power of this group has entered the core of the Antique Association. Chi mentions that as the old son is an example, and assumes that it is not just that. Mr. Wu is quite angry. If he finds out the identity of the person, he will show no mercy. Bai Wu thinks that if Mr. Wu has something to do with those people, it must be death. Bai Wu must eliminate the spy from the Wu family as soon as possible. Bai Wu asks the system who is the person who associated with the group, but the system still doesn't move. Bai Wu tries to ask other questions related to this, but the system still doesn't respond. Riot Games servers be like. Bai Wu thinks the system is broken, or maybe he tests it, but the system tells him that the content of the question is unclear and cannot be answered. Bai Wu has no choice but to find out the traitor by himself. She mentions that they must work together to fight this group. Mr. Wu clarifies that if they take Bai Wu to the core, they could put him in danger, but the final decision depends on whether he agrees to join or not. The group of counterfeiters and Bai Wu have already had a dispute to the death. Even if he didn't have that problem with the group of counterfeiters, he would still dare to stand up and do what he thinks is right. Besides, the challenge is the opportunity, and he still has the system on his side. Well, sort of. Bai Wu stands up and agrees to join. Chi tells him that there is still a formal vetting process to join the association, further clarifying that they can help each other only in secret. Now it turns out that Bai Wu must take a test. Wang thought the two elders had already taken over. Bai Wu has no problem. He can handle this. We return to the military man from before. He already knows that the old son was expelled from the association, so he suspects that Chi will arrange that missing position for someone he knows. The plan that these scumbags are preparing must be perfect. They already have the 4 in their sights. But well, back to Bai Wu and the others, who will seize the moment to have fun. Mr. Wu tells Hongtai to tell everyone that there will be a banquet. Wang is happy to be part of the party. Bai Wu will take this as an opportunity to find out who the Wu family traitor is. She says Xiao sent him a message saying she was busy with her work. They won't have to wait for her, they will eat first, but Mr. Wu wants to wait as it's still early. As he knows Bai Wu knows how to calculate, he asks him to calculate how long it will take Xiao to arrive. Wang tells him to hurry so he can show the elders what he is capable of. Bai Wu doesn't want Xiao to come. Moreover, the system has a lot of problems lately. Still, he tries to use it to find out if Xiao will come soon. Fortunately, the system is working again, but the chances of Xiao coming soon are 0. Bai Wu tries different times, but they all have 0% probability. It's a bit strange. Is Xiao in danger? Well, the probability of this is almost 77%, so yes, she is. Bai Wu reveals to Qi and Wu right away that Xiao might have a life-threatening problem. Both elders are alerted. Qi tries to call her, but Xiao's phone is switched off. Bai Wu asks the system where Xiao is, but it must be specific, with a map, but again it stays on loading. Mr. Wu says he will ask someone first and then they will all go and look for her. He then says that Xiao will catch a petty thief. With her skills it shouldn't be too much of a problem, should it? Qi asks them to stay there while he goes to see what's going on, but Bai Wu offers to go instead. Both elders tell him that he should be careful. Mr. Wu will tell Bai Wu how to get to the site. She is supposed to be at Mei Hao's flat, not far away. Besides, he offers to let Hongtai accompany him to take care of him. That said, they will leave now. Hongtai offers to drive. Bai Wu thinks that he is very cold, but he supposes that he must be skilled too. To some extent accompanying him would be safe. Bai Wu asks the system to make sure, but it doesn't answer. Again, what's wrong with the system? Whatever, this is not the time to think about that. The important thing is to save Xiao. Hongtai drives. Meanwhile, Xiao was undercover waiting for the signal to start her mission. She had a team with her. The exits were blocked. Xiao starts the mission. Behind that door was the target, who seems to be linked to the group of counterfeiters. When they knock on the door, the guy becomes alert when he sees that it is apparently a maintenance girl. He opens the door but prepares his gun. Bai Wu and Hongtai are still on their way. Then Bai Wu asks the system how serious the danger to Xiao's life is. Xiao enters the subject's room under the pretext that she will check the gas line, but then hits him and manages to kick him to the ground. Bai Wu and Hongtai are still on their way. Both follow instructions to arrive as soon as possible. The system indicated many things to Bai Wu, among them that the delinquent had a weapon, that the probabilities of Xiao dying were high. After that, the system fails again. They both make it to the neighborhood. Meanwhile, Xiao was preparing to arrest the guy, but he pulls out his gun. Xiao saves her partner, but the offender tries to escape through the window, so she chases after him. While fleeing, the offender shoots at her. Moments later, the car that Bai Wu was coming in gets in the way. The offender tries to steal their car, but Hongtai rushes out to take care of the offender. The guy is disarmed and arrested. That was really close. Xiao asks Bai Wu why he's there. Bai Wu, well, he was processing the fact that the bullets were real. If he had arrived a little later, Xiao would be dead. Hongtai acknowledges that thanks to Bai Wu's calculations, things went well. Xiao warns him that what he did was dangerous. Dealing with someone with a gun is not something ordinary citizens should do. Xiao gets a call, as there is another problem. Xiao leaves and thanks Bai Wu, although with some embarrassment. Despite everything Xiao has done to Bai Wu, he ended up saving her, so he hopes that in the future she won't bother him anymore. Bai Wu relaxes. Hongtai asks her if they should wait for Xiao to come back or if they should go back. At that point, Bai Wu wonders if the crisis has been resolved. But no, in fact, it was worse. The crisis was not resolved at all and the chances of Xiao dying were very high. Bai Wu becomes alert and starts to run. Every step he took increased the probability of Xiao's death. Did it mean that the criminal has not yet been caught? Maybe there is someone else who is an accomplice. Bai Wu arrives on the scene to search for her. When Bai Wu arrives, everything seems to be in order. He was very scared. He really thought something had happened. So what's the problem? Bai Wu notices that there are antiques in the place. The cops investigate and according to the signs in the room, there should be an accomplice. Xiao acknowledges that she should have a gun this time. As it is very dangerous, she informs her colleagues to keep a close eye on the suspicious persons. Xiao redeclares a call, as the residents wonder if the operation is over. Bai Wu begins to think. After a moment, he realizes that the danger is due to hostage rescue. Bai Wu approaches Xiao because he must tell her something important. She tells him to tell her later, as it is dangerous and he should leave. She insists that he leave, as if he does not, it is as if he is obstructing official duties. Bai Wu yells at her that if she leaves, her life will be over. Bai Wu regrets for being nosy, but he can't let her die. He explains to her that the scope of the current search is large, and manpower is limited. Besides, they don't know where the person they are looking for is. The longer they delay, the easier it is for things to get out of control. Bai Wu mentions that he can tell her fortune, then asks Xiao to make a decision after listening to his analysis. Bai Wu knows she is very stubborn, so he thinks she won't believe him at all, but surprisingly, she agrees to listen to him, under the excuse that any help from passionate people will be taken seriously. Bai Wu wonders what has happened to her all of a sudden. She is very different. Bai Wu starts talking. She mentions that those guys didn't hang around for no reason. Besides, it looks like they just ate. She suspects that the guy might have gone to buy cigarettes, specifically at the small supermarket south of the community. That said, the two of them will go together. Well, Hongtai too. Xiao tells her colleagues that the suspect is in the supermarket and that she is on her way to arrest him. The system confirms to Bai Wu that the offender has gone out to buy cigarettes, but also warns him that he has heard the gunshots and is ready to escape, and worse, has slipped into the crowd. Bai Wu tells Xiao that the offender was alarmed by the gunshots just now. Xiao's comrades find the target. They are in pursuit as he tries to escape. Bai Wu, Xiao, and Hongtai quickly jump into the car to get to the scene. The offender is now heading east. Also, there is a shopping area there, so he heads there. It is possible that the guy has a gun and has called for backup. There are two policemen standing guard on the street, but the offender noticed them. Now he runs to a building under construction. Xiao arrives at the building under construction, where they prepare a plan to block the criminal's exit. Then she gets out of the car to start searching. Bai Wu doesn't look too good, so he tells Hongtai to go with Xiao to keep her safe. Bai Wu asks the system if Xiao will be safe this time. She is now no longer at risk, or so it seemed, because moments later, a brat enters the construction zone. Following that, the probability of risk starts to rise, and not only that, the chances of the child being taken hostage are very high. Bai Wu has to interrupt his break to start moving. The boy thinks that Bai Wu is chasing him, but in reality he is in front of the offender, who is indeed armed. To make matters worse, the system went crazy and now says there is a mistake. But something strange happens, because Bai Wu wakes up and Xiao is in front of him. Bai Wu asks Xiao if the boy is safe. She says yes. Furthermore, the suspect was also arrested and taken to jail. Then we see a flashback of Xiao shooting the criminal and Hongtai helping her. She tells Bai Wu that he hit his head in the fight. She thought he had an injury when she saw him faint. Bai Wu remembers when he got hit, but doesn't feel anything. Anyway, Xiao's crisis should be completely resolved. Xiao wants to take Bai Wu to the hospital, but Bai Wu refuses to go. The system keeps giving error and loading data. Moreover, it does not allow to calculate. Next, Xiao realizes that she has grabbed Bai Wu's hand and they are both embarrassed. Bai Wu lets her go. He's done with the affair. But the private grievance is not over yet. Considering what just happened and knowing Xiao's temper, she's going to hit him now, isn't she? Well, surprisingly no, she is genuinely worried about him, even though she uses the excuse that she has to take care of the good citizens. Somehow, Xiao thinks Bai Wu is a good person. She adds that in the bus incident, it was thanks to Bai Wu that a bigger disaster could have been avoided. So in short, she thanks him, and it doesn't stop there. She also apologizes for treating him badly. Bai Wu accepts the apology. Xiao tells Bai Wu that she heard him say that through calculations, he suspected that her life was in danger, and that's why he went to rescue her. If it wasn't for Bai Wu arriving in time, she would have died. They continue talking and laughing. Xiao mentions the Tang Sankai affair to Bai Wu. She admits that it was her fault as she misunderstood the situation and misinterpreted it. Bai Wu tells him it's alright. That's when Xiao realizes that Bai Wu knew the Tang Sankai was sold by mistake and he knew it belonged to Xiao's family. But he still intentionally sold it at a high price. Bai Wu locks himself in the car and tells Xiao that he can explain it. Xiao doesn't seem to mind so much. After all, Bai Wu made money and her grandfather got the object back. Xiao worries that her grandfather is being cheated. At the same time, her sense of justice and professional habits make her doubt Bai Wu as an outsider, yet she remains trustworthy and good. Despite everything, Bai Wu knows that Xiao is totally arrogant. Xiao gets into the car and asks Bai Wu about the calculating ability, then tells him that he has to keep a low profile to avoid trouble. Although she doesn't understand him much and doesn't believe in those powers either. She acknowledges that it's accurate, but Bai Wu has no power or self-defense ability, so she warns him to be careful about causing trouble. She tells him for his own good, if the bad guys find out that Bai Wu has that ability, he'll be in big trouble. Bai Wu tells her that he knows that. Of course, the less people who know, the better. Next, Bai Wu asks Xiao if the bad guys from before were found selling antiques. She only knows that those guys have a lot of criminal records. She received an arrest warrant, but she's not sure about the rest, and even if she knows, it's something she can't tell Bai Wu. He knows she won't do things that violate confidentiality rules. Besides, she must not have all the details. The forger group still have to start with Qi and Mr. Wu and the Antique Association. That's when Bai Wu remembers that Qi is waiting to hear from both of them. But it doesn't matter, because Hongtai has already reported it. Although I don't know where he got those birds from. Chi and Mr. Wu wait for Bai Wu to return to start. Bai Wu is afraid of being late, but he needn't worry, because Xiao will take him. Although being a policeman, I don't know how legal it is for her to drive at such speeds, but as we don't know the laws, then we don't care. From there we go to the Wu family meeting. Xiao is waiting there. This guy tells her that they should start eating, but she wants to wait for her sister Yu. She called her to tell her that she was stuck in traffic, so she is probably a bit late. This guy mentions that after Yu got married she has had problems. Moments later, Bai Wu arrives accompanied by Mr. Wu, Chi and the others. Mr. Wu tells everyone that they have guests of honor, both Chi and Xiao, then introduces Bai Wu and Wang. Moments later they all take their seats to begin dinner. This guy acknowledges that Bai Wu at such a young age received compliments from Mr. Wu. This blonde guy is a bit upset, as he thinks Bai Wu and Wang are swindlers, so he plans to expose them and punish them. Xiao mentions that Bai Wu has good values and that they've known each other for a while. This guy who looks like Trunks asks her how she met him and jokes that maybe he's her sugar daddy. Xiao intervenes so that they stop bothering Xiao. Yes, these two have the same name, only one is called Chi and the other Wu. Xiao doesn't like this blonde guy calling her by her first name. The pink-haired one tells Xiao to take a seat and that he was actually joking with Xiao. The glasses man wonders what Wang and Bai Wu's skills are, as they don't look like the sons of a prestigious family. They joke that they were picked up off the street and look like gangsters. Xiao says that although they belong to a prestigious family, without their protection they are trash. She then clarifies that Bai Wu is a guest of honor, as his analytical skills are recognized by Chi and the others. She ends by warning them not to look for trouble. Xiao and Xiao leave to talk alone. Mr. Wu tells these three that they should learn more from Bai Wu, then tells Chi to drink, as they haven't drunk together for a long time. These three talk to Bai Wu and get to the point they want to see his skills because they supposedly want to learn from his teachings. Bai Wu knows that these three guys must want to ridicule him. The one with glasses tells Mr. Wu that they bought some stuff that they don't know if it's any good, so they want Bai Wu to check it out so maybe they can learn from him. Wang overhears this and offers to help check the items, but Bai Wu also wants to see what they have bought, so he wants to accompany them. She notices something strange. As for Mr. Wu, he just tells Bai Wu to show those three something. The blonde is pretty sure that Bai Wu is a swindler and that he will be found out. These objects on the table is what Bai Wu will have to check. He must tell the origin and the price, as in theory it should be easy for him. Bai Wu knows that those three are using dirty tricks. Mr. Wu also knew that those brats wanted to embarrass Bai Wu. Back to him, Bai Wu starts to activate the system. But the system errors again, over and over again. You must be joking, right? Have him change the Windows version or something. Mr. Wu was watching, and noticing that Bai Wu didn't say anything. He thought he was planning something. It's been a while and Bai Wu is still looking at the articles. The blonde guy scoffs and says it's because maybe he's drunk. Wang intervenes to stop disrespecting Bai Wu and clarifies that he is never wrong. The blonde man lets his true colors come out and tells Bai Wu directly about his suspicions that he is a swindler. Wang tells him that Bai Wu cannot respond because he has used up too much strength and needs time to recover. Mr. Wu thought Bai Wu was injured when he saved Xiao. Bai Wu wonders what the hell is wrong with the system, as this hasn't happened before. He's being pressured by some brats. Should he find an excuse to get out of there? The blonde insists on exposing Bai Wu. But it is at this point that Mr. Wu intervenes to stop those three from bothering the guest of honor. Then Mr. Wu apologizes to Bai Wu for the idiocy of those three. Mr. Wu notices that Bai Wu's expression is strange. He thinks that maybe it is an internal injury or maybe he is angry with those three brats. Mr. Wu tells the three to apologize to Bai Wu. The blonde is angry as he thinks a swindler deserves no respect, seeing that Mr. Wu was planning to hit him. Bai Wu intervenes and tells him that it is just a fight between young people. He then takes those two objects and says that they are fake. But they have age. They were created in the Ming Dynasty. It is a well-made product, so it has value to be preserved. The system seemed to be working again. Bai Wu points out that this vase was made in detail. The size and the way it was made are excellent, but it is a fake. It was made this year. The three realize that Bai Wu is right. Fortunately for him, Mr. Wu bought time for himself and the system recovered, but he is still worried about the recurring errors the system is having. Luckily, he has passed that test. Bai Wu knows that without the system he is nobody. If they wanted to test it again and the system fails again, he may look like the con man they said he was. Mr. Wu is impressed, as even he didn't recognize some of the objects that were there. Only someone with good eyesight can make them out. Bai Wu realizes that all those antiques are all related to the scam group. The last time the system told him that the scam group is related to the Wu family, Could it be that the Wu family has spies? The bespectacled one apologizes to Bai Wu for disrespecting him. The blonde has no choice but to acknowledge that Bai Wu has skills. The Wu family wants to continue drinking, but Bai Wu has to leave because it is getting late. The system fails and the Wu family is difficult to deal with. How can Bai Wu know who the traitor is? He must leave before he is discovered by the spy. Mr. Wu thinks Bai Wu wants to leave because he is upset, so he insists him to stay to drink more. Wang also wants to stay a little longer. At that moment, Bai Wu remembers that Xiao told him that he shouldn't draw so much attention to himself. If the system is failing and if the spy attacks Bai Wu now or is reported to the company, he's dead. Bai Wu insists on leaving, but Mr. Wu grabs his arm and tells him to wait, then asks him if he's known Xiao Xiao for a long time. I think this old man has it in his mind that these two are getting married. And yes, indeed. But things get complicated because Qi realizes the situation and is not at all happy about it, as Bai Wu is supposed to marry Xiao, his granddaughter, as she met him before and he also saved her life. Mr. Wu insists that they should ignore the life-saving part, as according to him Bai Wu and Xiao Xiao have a deep relationship. They both start arguing. Both Xiao and Xiao Xiao intervene to stop it, as neither of them want to get married, let alone in such a sudden way. Xiao leaves in tears as Qi never asked her for her decision in such a big matter. Why did all this happen? Bai Wu just wanted to get out of there, although it served to make him realize the way this blonde guy was looking at Qi with such hatred. The one with glasses tells the blonde to control himself. Bai Wu starts to get suspicious of these people. Both Qi and Mr. Wu apologize for the whole issue of wanting Bai Wu to get married and talking about him. A moment ago he wanted to leave, but now he's fine. He says he wants to enjoy drinking. Bai Wu knows that both Qi and Mr. Wu value him. Now, he must find out the Wu family spy for the sake of the others. First, he will test them. They are being aggressive with him and went out of their way to embarrass him. What do they want? Well, he can't know because the system keeps failing, although Bai Wu believes he can discover the spy using his own analysis without the system. Bai Wu approaches these three. Although they look sophisticated, they are very cowardly. Bai Wu proposes a toast, but they want to start first under the excuse that he has taught them a lot. Seeing the blonde's face, Bai Wu thinks that it reflects just what he thinks in his face, so he can't be the spy for the counterfeiting group, but he may be acting to confuse him. That would be very cunning. The blonde asks Bai Wu how he and Xiao met, while holding his hand tightly. Well, it's a dramatic story. He tells him that Xiao mistakenly sold his family's tricolor glazed pottery, while he was lucky enough to get it, and later, he helped her stop the criminal who was trying to set fire to the bus. That's how they met. The blonde squeezes Bai Wu's hand harder. It looks like jealousy, so Bai Wu clarifies that they know each other but there is nothing between them. Bai Wu is honest. He doesn't like violent ones. The blonde lets go of his hand. This confirms it. He was acting rude because Qi mentioned about the engagement with Xiao. The pink-haired one says he has a lot of speeding tickets on the highway. Then he asks Bai Wu if he is interested in car racing. The guy intervenes and says that Bai Wu is not as idle as him. Then he threatens to block his card so that he can only do company business. Both the blonde and the pink-haired man are more concerned about having fun, so they shouldn't be the spies. Besides, they don't have their own money. Bai Wu better focus on the older ones. As he gets closer, he realizes that they only talk about things like funds and stocks. Moments later, a lady approaches Bai Wu to ask him to do divination on a very expensive necklace. Bai Wu is exhausted. The world of the rich is very strange. They only talk about money. He has nothing useful. He hasn't managed to get anything even though he has worked hard. None of them looks like a spy. Suddenly, Mr. Wu calls Bai Wu. There is a mole in the Wu family counterfeiting group, but he doesn't know who it is. Besides, the system is out of order. Should Bai Wu remind Mr. Wu of that? Maybe he could take care of it. Bai Wu reminds both Qi and him of what they talked about in the morning. The group of counterfeiters know a lot about them while they barely know them. Hongtai reports that the lady and her husband have arrived. There was someone missing. It's these two. Bai Wu immediately notices that the guy looks shady and doesn't seem to be a good person. Then the system warns Bai Wu that the son-in-law of the Wu family is not a good guy. The system is back up and running, so Bai Wu asks if the son-in-law of the Wu family is the mole. This girl is Ruyu, Xiao Xiao's sister, and she is always late because she is supposedly always busy. Bai Wu notices that no one seems to care about the son-in-law. Plus, the system falls down again, so he'll have to rely on himself to find out the guy's background. Mr. Wu introduces them both. Ruyu's husband's name is Suzy. Ruyu apologizes for being late. Bai Wu tells the pink-haired man that his brother-in-law is in a bad mood. The blonde doesn't care if Suzy is in a good mood or not, because if he hadn't married Ryu he wouldn't even be able to feed himself. Bai Wu realizes that Suzy is a matrilocal son-in-law. The pink-haired man whispers to Bai Wu that Suzy is a failure, and that he has no idea how he convinced Ryu to marry him. Even though Suzy has an impressive academic background, he has achieved nothing else. A loser couldn't be the mole in the group of counterfeiters, but what the system said is too vague. Who knows if he's just a loser or the real mole? Maybe he's just a nobody, but then again, that look of contempt speaks volumes. The blonde-haired guy tells Bai Wu that he's better than Suzy, so if he ended up marrying Xiaoxiao, that would be great, since she wouldn't be cheated on by losers, but Bai Wu tells him he's never thought of that. Bai Wu thinks the possibility of the Wu family's son-in-law being the mole is very high, but he needs to get more information. Next, Ryu approaches him and introduces himself. Mr. Wu told her about him, but she thought he would end up introducing her to a highly respected old expert. Bai Wu thinks that compared to Xiaoxiao, Ryu will be harder to deal with. Bai Wu tells her that he is very flattered. That's when he realizes something else. If Suzy is the family mole, his wife might know something. But when he gets too close to her, Suzy tries to intervene, but she lets go of his hand. Ryu asks Bai Wu what he does for a living, and he replies that he has no job and is only interested in the antique business. Bai Wu notices that the son-in-law is quite angry, perhaps because he thinks he is flirting with his wife. But despite this, they do not seem like a sweet couple. Mr. Wu intervenes to tell Ryu that Bai Wu is capable of fortune-telling. Suzy gets angrier. He thinks that fortune-telling is rubbish. He can't stand the Wu family speaking well of a cheat like Bai Wu. If the husband and wife don't get along, then Ryu might not know much about what her husband does, so he has to test him directly. Bai Wu asks Suzy if he is also knowledgeable about the antique circle. He replies that he is not an insider, but he is interested in the business. Bai Wu heard that Suzy is always busy. Besides, Ryu also works in the financial industry, so he asks Suzy if he is the CEO of a corporation. He replies that he is just an ordinary employee. Bai Wu thought that the man who married Ryu must be a member of the senior circles or an elite of some industry, but Suzy says that he is just an employee. Bai Wu tells Suzy that he is a member of the family anyway, though he fights for his own business without depending on the family, which seems impressive, but asks if his pay is enough to feed Ryu. Then Bai Wu mentions that Suzy is a matrilocal son-in-law, so he apologizes for the question earlier. Suzy gets nervous and only replies that he will try his best to get what Ryu wants, as he would like to do something for her. Bai Wu notices that this guy's answers seemed very scripted, even when he went out of his way to irritate him. It seems he won't be able to figure out anything without the system. However, he knows he was faking it, so something must be wrong with him. No wonder he was able to fool Mr. Wu and Chi. For now, Bai Wu better not scare Suzy. Instead, he should concentrate on his system bug. He can take care of exposing the mole when the system works well, but Bai Wu must do something before the system can work well. Wang tells Bai Wu that he is being too quiet. Next, Bai Wu asks him if he has many sources, so he takes Wang's head and directs it towards Suzy. Bai Wu is clear. He wants Wang to go get information about this guy, who is still acting weird, and more with that wedding ring. The meeting ends and it's time for everyone to go home. Mr. Wu tells Bai Wu that driving back so late is dangerous, so he offers to spend the night there. Bai Wu thanks him for mentioning it, but he has already called a designated driver. Bai Wu knows he must keep an eye out for the Wu family's son-in-law. He will find a way to catch him next time. The priority now is to find out what is wrong with the system. Bai Wu at home asked many questions to the system, but he failed to answer any of them. He assumes it is his fault because he concentrated too much on making money without worrying. Where does the system come from? Why did it suddenly appear? Not knowing this, he also doesn't know why it can't work properly. The system indicates a load failure. It looks like a computer system, so Bai Wu thinks of restarting it. The system indicates that it has low energy. Then it indicates that the system consumed a lot of energy to ensure the safety of Bai Wu when he was in danger. Yes, when he was in danger, specifically when he hit his head on the ground before. He almost died because of that. It was dangerous. This indicates that the system not only indicates the success rate, but it is also able to save Bai Wu's life. But that consumed a lot of energy, so it cannot work properly. The system tells him that it needs to be updated regularly. So now the system cannot answer the questions and protect him. Then it is like he is in a dead end. There are a lot of problems in front of Bai Wu, especially the group of counterfeiters. The system helped him a lot. Thanks to that, he got connections and opportunities. Does it mean that his journey to the top of his life is about to end? Bai Wu refuses to go back to where he was before. He must find a way to fix this. Bai Wu asks the system what it must do to fix the power problem, maybe electricity or something. What kind of power does this system need? The system looks for a way to get energy. Bai Wu thinks that the system can let him see the possibility, which is mysterious, but it is rather an advanced recovery system. It must belong to futuristic technology. Bai Wu managed to get it, but now he even has to find out how it really works. The system indicated that it was running out of energy. The plans for getting power supplements for the system are as follows. Plan A. The system can upgrade itself, although the time needed cannot be estimated, and during the upgrade, faults such as slow operation and flickering will occur. Plan B. The system can also get power from outside, and Plan C. The system can also get power from the host. This is fast and convenient, and the process will take 3 seconds. Seeing that it was only 3 seconds, Bai Wu tries to choose that option. But he stops when he realizes that if the system gets power directly from him, he will have to pay for it. How can the system get power directly from a human being? The system indicates that due to lack of power, the central database was out of order, so it cannot answer Bai Wu's questions. Bai Wu asks what would happen if he died giving power to the system, but suddenly a lot of notifications pop up. The system can get power from the host without endangering his life. The system is able to quantify anything. If the system gets power from the host, this will make the host lose some chances to get something. Bai Wu is not sure what this means. Would it consume some of his luck? In that case, it is not a good deal. If Bai Wu chooses Plan B, he will have to collect energy everywhere. It sounds like what always happens in fairy tales, where a hero goes all the way to collect spiritual energy and defeat an ancient monster. Bai Wu doesn't think he can do that. Plan A says that the system can be upgraded gradually without any help. It is a bit annoying and the system might not have a full function. But right now it seems the safest way. Bai Wu asks the system if by choosing Plan A, he might be able to change his mind later. The system replies that the host will be able to change his mind at any time. Bai Wu chooses Plan A. He tells the system not to hesitate to remind him when he finds some external power. Bai Wu will take Plan C as a backup, as he doesn't quite agree with the restrictions mentioned in Plan A anyway. Bai Wu knows he has to deal with the group of counterfeiters. He is a bit relieved with those backup plans. Bai Wu hopes that Wang can get some useful information. Following that, Bai Wu plans to check the USB that Mr. Wu gave him. 2 days later, Bai Wu has a couple of files, one of studies on the counterfeiting of blue and white porcelain by the Shenggong Hall and a list of sales records. The information is quite complete, but Bai Wu wants to know the criminal's next plan. Moments later, he gets a call from Wang. He says he got important information. He found a Hawala broker who may be related to the enemy. Wang tells him to hurry to Wang so that he can send him the address. Bai Wu tells him that those people also belong to the counterfeiters group, so they can be recognized, so they should go in disguise before going there. They both go in disguise to Golden World Investment. Wang tells him that he heard that some of the money from the antique circle will flow to this Hawala broker. Besides, it has something to do with the group of counterfeiters. Wang didn't take it lightly. Bai Wu is surprised that Wang has become so considerate. He has done a very good job. Wang's plan is to pretend that they will make an investment. This is to gain their trust. Then Bai Wu must use his special ability at the last moment, as it will consume a lot of energy. Wang offers to spy the terrain first. Bai Wu asks the system if this Hawala broker has anything to do with the group of counterfeiters, but receives no answer. Because the system cannot function when it is under maintenance, it will have to rely on itself. They both go to the meeting room to talk to this guy, who mentions that the company's project is market verified and has decent returns. To Bai Wu, this sounds like a good investment company, plus he can't find the connection to the group of counterfeiters. Wang intervenes to say that they will invest 10 million, but Bai Wu hits him as that is something he has not agreed to. Bai Wu tells the guy that he would like to call his investment advisor to make a decision, so the guy will wait outside. Bai Wu tells Wang that he hasn't found any clues, and also complains about the fact that he wanted to invest 10 million recklessly. Wang thinks he will find clues after he invests. Then Bai Wu realizes that Wang is hiding something. Wang decides to tell him the truth after a while. He went to look for clues. He didn't get anything useful, but he found out that most of the interns invest in this company. So he thought he would make a fortune, even though he was afraid of being cheated. So he asked Bai Wu to come and give him a check. Bai Wu gets angry because Wang seems to ignore what the priority is right now, then tells him that this company is a shell company, so he would be cheated after investing. Wang tells him that this will not happen, as several of his friends in the circle have invested a lot there and received the benefits. Wang mentions that he has started making a lot of money since he started working with Bai Wu, but he also has to think about planning for his future. Bai Wu tells him that he doesn't want to discuss it with him anymore. He just asks him to remember one thing. Wang can count on him in the future, so he should cut the crap and follow him. Both of them leave the meeting room with intentions to leave. Seeing that they don't want to invest, the guy tries to convince them to do so. As the owner of the company and the shareholders are quite powerful, specifically bigwigs from the antique circle. Bai Wu is surprised to hear this. This means that the bigwigs of the antique circle are the owners of Hawala Broker. That kind of bigwigs can't be reputable. Bai Wu wonders if there is a chance for Wang to find the Hawala broker from the group of counterfeiters. Upon learning that important people connected to the antique circle invest there, Bai Wu changes his plans and tells the guy to introduce him to the bigwigs, as he wants to meet the owner of the company. Bai Wu tells him that as long as the investment projects are profitable, he can invest at least 300 to 500 million in the company every month. The guy takes them both to meet the owner of the company, but here's something weird. Doesn't this guy look like Suzy to them? He also introduces himself as Mr. Z. Bai Wu also notices this when he sees the ring on his hand. Suzy is a totally different person in that disguise. Bai Wu introduces himself with the surname Hai, and mentions that he used to do coal business. Bai Wu asks him if the industry can make a good profit. Suzy replies that certainly, but it depends on the evaluation ability, connections, channels, and capital. Suzy tells Bai Wu that this industry can really make healthy profits, which will also bring high risks for sure, but clarifies that he can trust them as they are professionals. Bai Wu poses as someone outside the antique circle to get more information. Suzy tells Bai Wu that they can make healthy profits without doing anything under the counter, and as for how they run the company, he can't give many details. Bai Wu thinks Suzy is treating him like a fool. Suzy tells him that he can rely on the strength and reputation of the company. Bai Wu continues to play dumb and tells him that he wants to invest in the company. Suzy wonders who this guy is. He doesn't know if he really has that much money or if he wants something more. Bai Wu threatens to leave to invest in other companies. Wang acknowledges that his performance is perfect. Even he doesn't know what he will do. Bai Wu is about to leave to invest in another company, but Suzy asks him to be patient, as in fact, they do need investors like him. But he clarifies that in the antique industry, channels always outweigh money. Suzy says that they need a large amount of money urgently to make a big deal, then tells Bai Wu that if he decides to invest, he will profit proportionally. That's all Suzy tells him that he can reveal. Bai Wu notices that Suzy is quite attentive. He even made up the excuse that there would be a big deal. Could it mean that the Hawala broker really has something to do with the group of scammers? The system answers this question. There is a 100% chance. The system has not worked as such again. It is still under maintenance. Bai Wu has to fend for himself, but he is also grateful that the system answers his questions randomly. In the car, Bai Wu calls Qi and asks him if there has been a big deal in the antique circle, specifically a deal that requires a large amount of money. Qi tells him yes, there are a number of rare antiques from a foreign noble family, so a bunch of bigwigs in the circle are determined to get them. Bai Wu figures it out. They intend to buy these rare foreign antiques and then counterfeit them. They will be able to make huge profits by doing this, as they have an exquisite counterfeiting technique. Knowing that this is what Suzy intends, Bai Wu will take it upon himself to ruin his plan, starting by dismantling this Hawala broker first. Bai Wu wonders how to solve everything. These people run Hawala broker cautiously, and they must transfer the money through special channels. Even if they took down Hawala broker, they would only lose one of the shell companies. Moreover, Bai Wu has no solid evidence to prove that son-in-law of Wu family is the owner of Hawala broker. Rash action would only alert them. What is behind Hawala broker is the counterfeit network. Bai Wu only has one chance to catch them, otherwise, he will get into trouble, so he'd better discuss things with Qi and Mr. Wu. They might be able to find a way to do it. The system tells Bai Wu that he won't be able to achieve anything without the help of the system and anyone else, since things are like this. The system proposes him to switch to Plan C. Bai Wu takes this as a challenge. He will try to destroy Hawala broker without the help of the system and anyone else. Wang tries to apologize to Bai Wu about what happened, but Bai Wu tells him that if things hadn't happened that way, they would never have found out that Suzy was actually the owner of Hawala broker. Wang only just found out that Suzy is the owner, let alone knew that Hawala broker had anything to do with the counterfeiting ring. Wang asks Bai Wu what they will do now, call Mr. Wu and give the son-in-law the coup de grace with him. Bai Wu says no, since they have no hard evidence, they should think discreetly. Wang realizes that if they get rid of Hawala Broker, his friends' investments will be thrown away. So Wang wants to warn his friends to withdraw their investments. Bai Wu's eyes sparkle with what he has just heard. He has just thought of something. From there we go to the Wu house, where Suzy was telling Mr. Wu about his so-called day at the company. Mr. Wu asks him to straighten his back when he talks to him. After this, Suzy returns as if nothing happened, and on the way he talks on the phone about transferring money to an account, although only a part of it. The rest he will do when he has the money in full, and he contacts none other than the guy with the scar, the military guy, the guy that Bai Wu and Wang fought against before. He offers Suzy to promote him to senior member of the organization once they achieve their goal. But what Suzy really wants is to get to where he is. When Suzy takes over the counterfeiting network, he will be powerful enough to turn everything in his favor. Even the Wu family will be his. Then he will be at the top of both the criminal world and the antique circle, according to him. He has been suffering for many years, and for the first time he begins to see hope of success. Or so he thought, because then he gets a call and is told that something has gone wrong. Something is wrong with the Hawala Broker. Bai Wu has already started to move his cards, and that's how the first part of this manhwa ends. Well guys, if you like this video and you want a second part, comment below with the word part 3. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell and like the video. But most important, leave a comment. Until the next video.